If you are evaluating a procurement software right now, the chances that you're seeing Procurify, Bill.com, and ProcureDesk as the three names coming up. Now, most online sources treat them as same vendors, but with slightly different price points, but they are not. Each of these solutions are designed for a different use case in your purchasing process. And if you land up selecting a wrong solution, that means you'll still have purchases happening without approvals, invoices piling up, and no visibility into your spend. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what are each of these systems are designed for, what are their key limitations, and how you can figure out what is the right solution for you given your current situation right now. Let's get into it. First off is ProcureDesk, which is our procurement and AP automation solution for growing companies between 100 and 1,000 employees. ProcureDesk is primarily designed for companies who have outgrown their current processes, whether it is homegrown systems or spreadsheets, but it is designed more around spend control. It's designed for CFOs and controllers to give them better spend control and a process to manage that, which means you have a process for controlling purchase requests before money is actually spent. Let's talk about the specific details. First off, the process is designed to be easy to use for end users. ProcureDesk integrates with close to 200 plus punch-out catalogs. Vendors like Amazon Business, Staples, CDW, all the major vendors where your employees are already using their websites to place order. And the way the process is designed is keep it easy for them, which is they can still use those websites, but with a control built in for purchase request. Here's how it works. Let's say I need to buy something from Amazon. I log into ProcureDesk, click on the Amazon logo. It takes me to the vendor website. I pick what I want to purchase, but then it brings you back into ProcureDesk. So now you can check it against budgets, route it to the right person for approval, and make sure you're only spending money which you're authorized to spend. And then once all that is approved, an order is directly placed with Amazon. Now, in our experience, most companies do not achieve their objectives regarding procurement automation is because people stop using the system and they find the workarounds. Now, with an experience like Punchout, there is no reason for them to find a workaround because it's the most easiest process. And by the way, that's what they're used to. So there's no reason for them to find a workaround. On the AP side, ProcureDesk automatically ingests the invoices from emails. There's a vendor portal and there's a built-in OCR and AI process to automate the invoice creation and invoice matching. So the way it works is invoice is sent by the vendor. ProcureDesk picks that up, creates the invoice using OCR and AI, and then does a two-way and a three-way match. A two-way match is where you are matching your invoices to your purchase orders, and a three-way match is where you're matching your invoice to your purchase order and receipt. And the idea here is that you're only paying for what you actually agreed to pay, which means what's on the purchase order, and you're confirming from your operations team that you have actually received the product before you pay the vendor. That's the key compliance, right, with the three-way match process. And if the invoice needs any further review and approval, which means you need to route it for any sort of exceptions, or it's a non-PO invoice like utilities or any services that are performed without a purchase order, you can still use ProcureDesk for routing that, right? So it's not just for purchase order invoices, it's also for non-PO invoices. And accounting integration is a core part of what ProcureDesk does. The last thing which you want is the user system for managing your procurement and then manually entering the data into your accounting system. That defeats the purpose of automation in our view. So we integrate with Xero, QuickBooks, Microsoft Business Central, Oracle NetSuite, Sage Intacct, and even Bill.com, which we'll talk about a little later. The sync covers everything, right? So the data sync in terms of chart of accounts, your project list, your vendor list, and of course, sending the purchase orders and invoices back to your accounting system. Now, a key need in a spend control process is the approval workflows. And we made it super easy for you to configure the workflows, whether you need a workflow for routing it to the right department owner or a project owner or whatever combinations might be, right? So for example, if it is an IT purchase, it must go to IT manager for them to review if this is something they want to move forward with, as an example, right? Or maybe they already have an inventory from where they can provide that product itself. That's an example. Or a software purchase must be reviewed for, do we already have licenses or can they use an alternate software? Or a CFO might want to review everything over $50,000 or any exceptions to the budget. All these processes can be easily configured in ProcureDesk without the need of involving someone from your IT team. ProcureDesk also support virtual cards. So let's say your employees don't have physical cards, they just need a virtual card issued to them for one-off purchases. That's all integrated within the process. So employees can put in a request for whatever they need to purchase, just select a virtual card because they need a virtual card. And once the purchase request is approved, which means you checked against the budget, everything looks good, system will automatically generate a virtual card for purchase. This can be managed, like, you might want to have spend limits for each vendors or expiration dates or how many transactions can be charged against a virtual card. All that process is managed within ProcureDesk. All right. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, ProcureDesk has 3 plans. One for companies who are just looking to automate their purchasing process, second for purchasing and AP automation, and third for large enterprise companies. The purchasing automation only plan starts at around $6,000 a year or $500 a month, and the purchasing and AP automation starts around $850 a month. And enterprise is, of course, based on your custom needs. I also want to talk about the setup process because that's where we see adoption failing, right? Because companies don't implement that in the right fashion or they don't have the resources to do that. So ProcureDesk includes a done-for-you service, or what we call our white glove implementation service, where we do this for you, which means we'll set up the system, we'll train your users, and we'll work with you to track ongoing adoption to make sure what tweaks are required to be made in the system to adjust to your process or any further changes that might come in the future. All that is taken care of. So you can focus on controlling spend rather than worrying about training users or, hey, how I'm going to set this up. So with all that said, ProcureDesk is designed for finance teams to control spending. So if you are a growing company between 100 to 1,000 employees and you have outgrown your homegrown systems or maybe spreadsheets, ProcureDesk is the right solution for you. And among all three, when you look at scale, ProcureDesk tends to be the most affordable solution as well. And what all I just covered seems like a process or a structure that you need in your procurement process. Go ahead and click on the link below and talk to one of our product specialists, and they'll walk you through exactly how ProcureDesk can help you with that. Now, the next solution I want to cover here is Procurify. So Procurify, if you see some of their recent ads, they are positioning themselves as a alternative to enterprise solutions like Coupa, but at I would say, a more affordable solution as compared to Coupa. So if you just look at their positioning, they're designed more for mid-market to large enterprise companies who might be considering Coupa as a system that they want to implement. So Procurify just want to be considered as an alternative. Now, when it comes to the core capabilities, it handles your standard purchase requisition process, expense management, and AP automation, and so on, including virtual cards. Now, virtual cards is one of the core capabilities of Procurify. So basically, if you are not paying vendors via invoices, or you don't have a proper PO process, but you just want to encourage employees to just use virtual cards, this is a good solution for you, whether it is travel, whether it is supplies that they are purchasing one-offs, software subscriptions, you can use all the solution there, right, from a virtual card standpoint. Now, managers can set up spending limits or control where the card can be used. All that is part of the solution. So if you are a school, for example, and you don't have a PO process at all, and all you just need is, hey, people can just buy using virtual cards, this is probably a good solution to consider. On the AP side, Procurify uses OCR to extract data and then match invoices. It supports both two-way and three-way match process. So for both services and material use cases, it can handle that very well. Approval limits are customizable, so you can route it to different stakeholders for review and approval as and when the invoice is going through the approval process. Now, where Procurify gets like a little bit of pushback is on 3 areas. So we looked at different review sites to get to this information. One is the limitations on the purchase orders, budget enforcement, and the price, of course. So we'll talk about each one of them, right? So on the purchase order side, users on Gartner Insights or GetApp talks about the limitations in terms of they can't customize the purchase order to exactly what they want it to look like. And on the budget management side, it's, it does support ability to check the budgets, but there is no like hard enforcement in terms of blocking the purchase from moving forward. This is some of the reviews that we kind of read about Procurify. And on the pricing side, it starts from $1,000 onwards, right? So for if you're a small organization, you're probably paying around $12,000 to $13,000 a year. And if you are maybe a mid-market, maybe you're paying around $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Again, you work with Procurify to figure out exactly what the pricing structure is, because they don't publish their pricing online. These are just based on what we read on reviews. So where does Procurify fit very well? It works best for mid-sized to large enterprise who are looking to automate their their procurement and AP process. So if you are like a 50 employee company and you're just looking for basic controls, Procurify, can solve all that problem, but you might be paying for a lot of features that you might not use to begin with. Lastly, we have Bill.com, which is known for its payment platform. So it's first and foremost a AP solution with a bill pay feature, and it covers the invoice capture, invoice review and approval, and paying vendors using ACH and checks. Recently in 2004, they also launched the capability to create purchase order request within Bill.com directly. So you could have a PO request and you have an invoice, you can match both. So do a two-way match, not a typical three-way match, which you'll do in a procurement software. That said, Bill.com purchase orders software has some limitations. Primarily, there is no punch out availability, which means the employees have to go figure out on their own what goes in each of the line items, right? So there's no ability for them to go back to Amazon, pick what they want to buy and bring it back into Bill.com. They actually have to either type it in or cut, copy, paste, and so on. So budget enforcement is also a little lightweight because you can check against the budgets, but there is no hard enforcement in terms of blocking the request for moving forward if there are no budgets that are available. Now, what Bill.com is strongest on is the bill payment side. It has a network of over 7 million vendors. So imagine the ability to kind of speed up the bill pay process if you were just using Bill.com payment process. It also integrates with different accounting systems like QuickBooks, NetSuite, Xero. So once the invoice is reviewed and approved in Bill.com, it'll automatically show up in your accounting system without further needs for data export and things like that. It kind of sync the data on a schedule. Only limitation on the payment side is international payments because all that has to go through wires. And if somebody is making a lot of international payments, that could be a challenge. For pricing, Bill.com AP solution starts at $45 per user, and then you scale based on number of users that you need, whether it's approvers and things like that, they count as users. And then you're also paying for bill pay capabilities, which is for each transaction that you run through the system for paying vendors on ACH or checks, that is separate, just volume, right? So what you're paying, you just pay for that. Now, the nice thing is ProcureDesk integrates with Bill.com. So you don't have to pick one or the other. You can use both solutions. So if you already have Bill.com or you really like Bill.com payment capabilities, ProcureDesk is a nice pairing along with Bill.com. This is how it typically works. There are primarily two use cases that you can use here. Number one is you can use ProcureDesk for creating the purchase request, routing it for approval, generating the purchase orders, managing the goods receipt, as well as creating invoice and matching the invoices, which means in this case, the invoice, once it's reviewed and approved, goes to Bill.com for payment. You use Bill.com for payment because that's what it's best for. And then Bill.com can sync that bill to your accounting system, right? That's one workflow. The other is if you're already using Bill.com and you want to add purchasing capabilities on top of it, you can still keep on receiving invoices directly in Bill.com and you create purchase orders and receipts in ProcureDesk. But then ProcureDesk can pull the invoices from Bill.com, do the three-way match and push the information back to Bill.com. So that's a scenario I would use. If I already have Bill.com, then that's a process to start with. If you're considering Bill.com for payment, you can still use ProcureDesk along with it to manage purchase requests, review approvals, any sort of goods receipts, as well as invoice matching. Now, in our view, Bill.com is very strong in bill payments. So if your purchasing process is already managed somewhere else, you can just use Bill.com along with that from a payment standpoint, and that is the right solution. Or if your needs are such that you don't have a PO process at all, and all you just need is a bill pay solution, which is takes the invoice, get it review and approval or pay, and then send it to your accounting system, Bill.com is a good fit. But if you're already using Bill.com, but you do have a need for purchase order, that is where you can link a system like ProcureDesk along with Bill.com to achieve both goals. Now, if ProcureDesk seems to be a right fit for your procurement automation needs, click on the link below to schedule some time with one of our product specialists. We'll walk you through the step-by-step process on how ProcureDesk integrates the entire process all the way from requisitions, approvals, purchase orders, invoices, and also the bill pay and virtual cards. Again, click on the link below to schedule some time with our team. And if you want to check out what's the best account payable automation software right now, check this video.